Alright, welcome back ladies and gentlemen to the Chupacabra Tutorials channel. I'm your host, Larry, and today we're going to do something a little bit silly in Photoshop. We are going to look at creating the ultimate Call of Duty Warzone thumbnail based upon the elements that literally every first-person shooter YouTuber sticks in every single one of their thumbnails. So the first thing you need is you need to have a picture of somebody, usually the YouTuber, or in your case yourself, if you are trying to become the next big first-person shooter YouTuber. You need a picture of yourself, and you've got to be reacting like this is the first time you've ever seen or heard of an explosion in your life. Like, this has shook you to your core. Like, that is like overreaction of the year award at the Oscars level of like you've never seen an explosion before in your life. Maybe even like overdo this like it's a reality show. Put your hands on your face and be like, oh, ay Dios mío. And then after that, we need to have the logo of the game. You need to have a crazy thing going on in the background, which is not actually in your footage at all, because all of these guys have what looks like damn near the same explosion in the background, except for this guy who ripped off the clown explosion that was made back in the 90s as a wallpaper. And then you need lots and lots of arrows, either as like the title, the live event, new, nuke, destroyed, live event. Oh man, this is gonna be great. So we need arrows, people freaking out, and explosions. That's the secret, guys. So let's get started. So first thing we need to do in creating a thumbnail is we need to make it the proper aspect ratio, 1920 by 1080. You can go like bigger than that to like 1440p if you want, but I don't see the need most of the time. So I'm just going to say ultimate COD Warzone thumbnail, and then we'll hit enter. And then the first thing we need is the wallpaper. So let's open up my window over here, and I just looked up, oh, and that's for a minute from now. I just looked up Call of Duty Warzone. You know what, let's just say explosion. Explosion. So we've got Call of Duty Warzone explosion, and we're gonna have to cobble a few of these together to make something interesting, because I'm not seeing like, oh, here's one. This is kind of like the atomic bomb, but it doesn't look quite as crazy. So let's just grab this one, and we'll turn this one into a background where there's a nuke going off, because we can do that. It's Photoshop, we can do whatever we want. So we're gonna plunk that in here. And to start out with, I'm just gonna start positioning all of my elements into the frame and erasing things like logos where I don't want them to be. So let's just hit the J button to get out the healing brush tool, and I'll just target somewhere with rocks, and we'll just erase this COD Warzone title. I'm going to be putting like a person's face over top of large portions of this, so it doesn't really matter if it doesn't look like a perfectly clean fix. We just need it to look believable on first glance when it's like this big. Like, that looks like terrain when it's that big, so that's fine. And there's already an explosion going on right here in the frame, so perfect. So the next thing we need is we need some random Yahoo screaming. So let's go over here, and when you look this up, there's a lot of people. I mean, you definitely want somebody that looks like they know how to do the vidgy games. And then maybe not like an actual person like Tyler here, who is known for raging and screaming and freaking out. This guy's pretty good. This guy's not bad. Like, I could roll with that, but I want something that's a little bit more full frame. So let's go with this one from Polarium. Those are actually people that owe me money still from years and years ago. And let's copy this image, and let's plunk this right in. Whoops, that was, for some reason, that didn't copy. There it goes. And now that we've got this image, we need to select this gentleman outside, or from his office. So I'm going to hit W to activate the magic wand tool, but I'm not going to click on anything. There's actually a button up here at the top on newer versions of Photoshop called Select Subject. We're going to click on that, and it uses Adobe's fancy computer brain in order to figure out what is the thing we want to select in this image. And it did a pretty good job of selecting the person. It's got pretty good awareness of that. And if we want, we could kind of grab the rest of his mouse and his mouse pad here. Let me just hit L to grab the lasso tool, and I'll hit shift so that you see the lasso icon there with a plus mark. That means we can add to our selection. And I'm just gonna kind of quickly select his mouse pad as best as I can. We're gonna clean this up here in a second. I'm gonna snip off his mouse cord. It's officially gone wireless over here, so he doesn't really have to worry about that too much. And then, do we want his keyboard? I feel like we could do with his keyboard. We could just be super pro about this. Select his keyboard and all of his fingers. People like having their fingers, right? That's like a thing people like. I know I don't like my fingers being severed, but that's not always something that you get in modern day media. And then we're going to click select and mask. And here we have the tool that's going to allow us to refine our selection. So the stuff that's kind of in a weird wibbly blue, we can change this to any color we want. Let's make it like green, something we can easily see. This allows us to see where the edge is, and I'm going to use this tool right here that's already selected in order to refine the edge. That's what that does. It's got like a little hand pinching, or it looks like a hand to me pinching a paintbrush tip, but it's just a paintbrush drawing through lines to kind of fix them and auto-detect the edges of things. And we don't necessarily need this to be uber-duper perfect, because this is just for a quick thumbnail that people are generally going to look at for absolutely 2 seconds, and then that's going to be it. And then we're going to select the area between his hat and his headset so that that gets alphaed out. And you see it does a pretty okay job of removing just the background and leaving his hat and hair. We're going to have to clean this up a little bit. No smart tool is as smart as a person. Otherwise, you know, we'd be out of the job, right? But we can do a pretty decent job of selecting everything. Let's just make sure we figured out where his keyboard is. We're really just retracing the edges to tell Photoshop, hey, take another quick crack at this just before I have to manually do everything myself, and see if we can't remove 90% of it. That's pretty good. Let's see what it does. We'll do that, and that looks serviceable. So what we can do now, because I added a mask, well, if I back up a step, this button down here, the square with a circle in it, that means I'm masking it, but all that stuff is still there. Like, it's not been deleted. If I switch to my brush tool, I can actually select this mask, and I can draw back in all of his background if I wanted to. And this gives us the option to go back in and clean up mistakes and refine edges ourselves manually, so that we don't, you know, look like a pleb when people come in here and, like, judge us on our editing skills, right? We can smooth out his hair so it doesn't look so weird, and make this a little smaller and go in here and draw out parts of his headset so it looks cleaner and crisper on the edges. And most of the stuff that you do with selecting out figures should be relatively quick process. So let's go ahead and put a refined edge here on his mouse pad, because clearly Photoshop was like, well, this is a smooth and kind of fuzzy edge, so we'll just, you know, make it smooth and fuzzy. I'm actually going to use a hard brush for this. And another way to see exactly what it is that you're changing, you can duplicate this layer, disable the layer underneath the mask, and then invert it with Control-I. And then this will allow you to see exactly where the colors kind of change. And we can even, like, change these to be like a super crazy color so it's easier to identify exactly where the edges of things used to be. So you know what you want to trace on your top layer. So let's go back up to here, and let's kind of, we'll just smooth out this edge. I kind of want his mouse pad to be a crisp edge, at least in part. So we'll just smooth away some of the junk that's still hanging off the edges here. And then this is relatively okay over here. What I'm looking for is nice crisp edges so that this looks professional. Then let's just boink. How does that look? Not bad. I mean, just it's worth remembering that this is going to be like this big. Most people aren't going to notice this when we're done. No sane human being is going, well, actually I say that, but most of the time no sane human being is going to look over here and be like, this man doesn't know, or this man or woman doesn't know how to Photoshop worth a nickel, and you're like, well, I mean, I did spend 5 minutes on it, but sure, thanks, buddy. Thanks, buckaroo. Then we'll just clean up. That kind of edge selection tool kind of murdered the edge of this keyboard a little bit more than I thought it would. So we'll just do that, and then crisp up the inside of the keyboard where it looks like it's a little transparent where it shouldn't be. And then the hand, and give him back his pinky a little bit. A little bit, not a lot. He doesn't need the whole pinky. Just some of the pinky. This isn't like the Pinky Swears Club where you need the whole pinky in order to participate. You only need like a good 30% of the pinky. Alright, that looks pretty good. We're gonna roll with this. So let's turn back on our background. And then we're going to stick this bad boy like right here and make him Dragundo. He's like, oh, there's a crazy explosion happening in the background. And you know what? Just because the explosion's in the wrong corner, let's flip this. Go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontally. And then we'll kind of squish this around a little bit so that the explosion's exactly where I want it. And now we need to look at adding like a crazy atomic blast, right? So let's go back to our web browser over here. And then this is the logo. I want the explosion. So we've got this. Like we're trying to make an atomic blast, right? So let's just get like an atomic blast wallpaper. Atomic blast wallpaper. So like a million years ago, and I thought this was actually kind of funny, if you look over here, this dude straight up just yoinked this clown explosion that has nothing to do with COD whatsoever. So like a million years ago, some artist made this as a wallpaper, and people have been kind of ripping it off ever since, and it's even in a few official game wallpapers. But I want something that's a little bit more general purpose, because we're also going to rip off a wallpaper here today. So this one looks pretty good. Let's copy this image, and then let's see if it, let's see if it'll actually want to paste in here. Yeah, perfect, beautiful. And we're gonna do that same thing with the, you know how I just showed you the masking, but instead of selecting it ahead of time, we're gonna add a mask, and we're going to use the brush tool enlarged gigundoli and set with a soft edge, and we're going to start drawing in and phasing out all of this surrounding area so that we can kind of paint in this atomic blast going off. And that's like a quick and cheap way to just easily blend together multiple photos so that you don't have to do as much work. And then I can make it a little smaller, and I can kind of like do this, making sure that our atomic blast itself stays crisp by inverting the colors. So the way that a mask tends to work is anything that's white will show up bright and crisp. Anything that's black will be transparent and invisible. So we want to make sure that the inside of this explosion is a nice bright white color here in this mask. And then outside of that, where we want to blend it with everything, we want to make sure that that is really dark and kind of transparent so that we can put in all of the stuff that we want to put in. And if this ends up, you know, just play with it as you go. If this ends up being bigger or smaller than this in your version at home that you're playing with, by all means, your version of the ultimate Call of Duty wallpaper or Call of Duty Warzone wallpaper doesn't need to look exactly like mine. And then we can just do this. Perfect. And then that can kind of just blend with what's going on in the background. Now, what else do they do for making this look dark and scary? They got like stuff falling from the sky. It's all dark and moody. That's another thing we need. We need to make it dark and kind of off-tinted red, right? Gotta tint the whole bad boy red. So let's do that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a gradient here. And we're going to give it like one of those cheesy Instagram vignettes. So I'm going to hit G, that's the gradient tool, and then up at the top you can make what's called a radial gradient. It means there's a circle instead of a normal gradient, which is just like a gentle wash across the screen. So I'm going to do this. And then I want the outside to be black, so I'm going to invert it. And then I'm going to put a blend mode of multiply on it, so that when I forgot to blend this out over here. And then I'm going to make sure this is blended out over here, so it doesn't look like I've got weird stuff blending where it shouldn't. What kind of blend mode could I put on this to kind of make it pop like crazy? There's a lot of different things. I mean, playing with blend modes is all just part of the experience. So if I throw like a linear light on that, it really starts to pop like crazy. So I could do that. And then we've got the background going on. We've got our crazy gamer screaming his head off. But it's looking a little flat. We need to kind of make that background like pop with a little bit of red, right? Everything's crazy and red, but then we don't want it to be all red, because all of these posers over here just use basic COD colors, slap their face on it, and call it a day. We're a little cooler than that. Not a lot cooler, but we're a little cooler, right? Are you with me? Let's do that. So I'm going to make a copy of this layer, and we're going to hit Control U, and we're going to colorize it. We're going to make it crazy red, and we're going to make that like a dark red. Like a really bad sci-fi film about giant killer mosquitoes that have come to eat us all level of like lazy red wash over the whole thing. And then we're going to duplicate that again, and we're going to make it like, I don't know, like purple? Yeah, let's do like purple, because people stream on Twitch, right? That's a thing we still do. And then we can throw another lovely mask on these things. I keep brain farting mask as I'm literally making a mask. And then with the mask selected, this little white box here, we're going to use the gradient to reveal that color. And likewise on this one, we're going to add a mask too and do the exact same thing. That way, we've got these two colors kind of blending in here, and we can continue to kind of mish and mash them a little bit with our soft brush to try and make like these distinctive, if I select the mask that is, these distinctive color cutoff points and make sure they're like crazy bright. So to make sure they're crazy bright, I'm going to select the red layer, I'm going to go to my adjustments panel, I'm going to click curves. I'm going to just bump up that brightness a little bit, just like craziness. Maybe throw on some like vibrance to pop that color up a lot. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Although I'm just going to make it for the red. So if I click this little down arrow box, it makes it so that these just affect just the layer underneath with these little arrows. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other layer. I'm going to make it so that they only affect the layer below them with either holding Alt and clicking on the layer until this little icon appears and clicking the layer, or there's this little box in here that you can use to click so it only affects the layer below it. It's called a clipping mask. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to brighten that up like crazy. Maybe throw a vibrance on there just for fun. Throw the saturation up. And then what happens when I oh yeah, now it's really coming home. Really just selling it. Look at that. Look, it's beautiful. It's every first person shooter thumbnail in the history of ever. Nobody can ever pull the ace out of their sleeve quite as well as this monster that we're creating. It's beautiful. So what do we need to... Oh, well, maybe he needs a torso down here. It looks kind of weird that there's like a keyboard and a mouse pad and there's like nothing below his torso. Maybe we should put that back. Let's do this. Yeah, that'll do. Perfect. He's going crazy. There's a COD explosion. So anyway, I'm not sure if we want this nuclear explosion to be necessarily quite that big, but I do want it big enough to obviously say like, oh yeah, that's a nuclear explosion right there. So that's looking good. Now let's We need arrows, right? That was the other thing I said. We need arrows. Crazy, crazy arrows with the name of the event going on. And we also need like COD Warzone just slathered in the middle of this in like the least appropriate spot. So let's get some more elements going. We got this awesome explosion here. Let's grab the logo. So this'll do. We'll grab it from here. Let me just save this real quick to my junk file, where I keep all of my Photoshop junk and then I delete it periodically. And then let's put this here. Let's invert it with Control I. And then let's put that on the top. And then where should we stick this? Let's just plunk this like, I don't know, like up in the corner. There's room in the corner for this. But let's put it at an angle because we're really cool. It's like tilting your hat. You gotta put like everything at a slight angle. Nothing can be straight across. No words, no text, no nothing. In fact, just because I can, we're just gonna select all these and we're gonna tilt these as well. Like crazy people. Look at that. Boom, tilted. Everything must be tilted. Okay. Next, we need arrows. And this is, I don't know, I'm still not sure if this is big enough or if it's small enough or what. In fact, let's hold Alt and let's duplicate it that way. And then let's change the underlayer so that's like a slightly off-kilter color. And then it's gonna look like even crazier. Are you with me? Yeah? Oh yeah, look at that. That's the magic right there. It just looks so weird and funkadelic. And then we can start blending that some more. It's all just about blending like a crazy person. Yeah, we'll just blend in the top a little bit. Whoops. That's a little too much blending, but you get the idea. We'll just blend in here. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. That's the magic right there. So now that we've got those out of the way, slap those into a folder. We'll call that explosion. I'm going to stop touching the explosion for right now. I'm going to put the background in its own folder. We're going to call that background. Just so I stop messing with them and so we can get this done. And now we need arrows. So how do we make arrows? Let's just construct an arrow real quick with the shape tool. Just click on the literal only shape over here, or it's the U key. And then we can start with a rectangle. We're going to make a base arrow. And whoop, that is underneath of everything. And so now that we have this base arrow, let's make sure it's chunky enough because we like them thick. Let's go over here and grab the polygon tool. And I've already got it set to 3 sides because I was making an arrow just the other day. And holding shift will keep it in a nice little ratio of size. And then I can make this arrow, I can zoom in on this arrow tip like we're making a rocket. And I can adjust it till it more or less lines up. And then I can take these 2 objects, I can right click them after I've selected both of them, and I can merge them as one delicious shape. That has, alright, never mind. I'm going to unmerge them by hitting Control Z a bunch of times, because I somehow, even though I can't see it right now, left a single pixel seam between the 2 objects. Now we're going to remerge them. And now it looks like the secret is to make them a white arrow on red, but we're cooler than that. So we're gonna duplicate this and we're gonna make the base layer down here into, by double clicking on it and bringing up the layer styles, we're gonna put a color overlay. We're gonna make that color overlay red. And then we're going to make this top layer. Did I not merge these? Apparently I didn't merge them because I'm crazy. Okay, let's try that again. We're gonna duplicate them. I'm gonna double click this bad boy. We're going to make it red. Okay, it's red. We did it. Totally boss at this. Definitely. And then we're going to align this other arrow so it mostly fits, but it's still kind of wonkadoo to everything else in its life. Don't ask, do they all just like Google an arrow and use the same wonkadoo arrow? I swear they must. So we've got this, and we're going to like start to wibble wobble this around after we merge them. Okay, let's just make them a smart object so it behaves itself better. A smart object just means that you save this object in a separate Photoshop file so that you can adjust and wonk it around and it won't lose any resolution because it's loading from a separate file. Like nesting objects in other editors. So we're gonna say like something that isn't just like, oh my god, it's an event. We're gonna be like bing bang boom. Yeah, that seems to be a thing we can do. So let's start with this. Let's make a new layer and we'll say bing. And then what font do we want to use for this? I like using on-ramp that I paid for, but you can use whatever you want. I recommend if you're gonna be YouTubing long term, that for your own brand specific stuff, you kind of figure out what fonts you like to use. There's a lot of resources out there if you want like a nice one that's designed by like top-notch hipsters. Go to Lost Type, I think it was, his website. Go buy one, buy a license, it's good stuff. Use it, love it, live by it. It'll make your life like a million times easier having a nice logo font thing to use. So we're gonna say like bing, and then we're gonna duplicate this, bang. Oh, don't forget the exclamation mark and the swizzle. Let's add the little swizzle there too. Bing, bang, and then boom. We're gonna do boom at the end. And just because we're cool and we like to draw outside the edges sometimes, we're gonna let the little swizzle hang out outside of the box, right? And I'm gonna color change this one to like a purple or a blue. And we're going to slap that into together. So we're just gonna rasterize that and merge it together. And we're gonna go back and grab the original. And we're gonna try to make them a little wonkadoo, because everybody loves weird arrows that are wonkadoo, like a crazy street sign from like an old medieval story. Everybody loves it. It's the key to absolute success in the internet. Wonkadoo this, wonkadoo that. Bing, bang, and then boom. Actually, let's put like stuff at the front of boom too. Boom is like extra important. You gotta like add crazy hashtags and symbols and plus signs and the cool refreshing taste of Charleston Chew. All that stuff needs to be in here. And then we're gonna like make it a little bit smaller. And then let's make this like a weird kind of wonkier shape. We're gonna want to put some variety in this. Bing bang boom. And then how do we want to position all these? Slap them in a folder. Signs, or no, these are arrows. Arrows. Super predacious arrows. And for some reason I accidentally slapped the Warzone logo in here. Let's get rid of you. Did I accidentally? I totally did. I totally put that in with everything. Let's just slap that in its own layer and hide that for now. And then how do we want to position this? We'll just do this. Bing, bang, boom. And we could even repurpose one of these to say like the nuke event if we wanted to. But this is like peak right here. You know, we're gonna put the Call of Duty Warzone in the corner. We've got bing, bang, boom. We can even reposition my little dude here so he's kind of like off to the side and make his face like, let's just make his, what am I doing? There's way too much of his body in this picture. We just need his giant face just screaming at the camera. I'm overthinking this entirely. And we need just to say bing, bang, boom. Just like this. And then we're gonna move the explosion over a little bit so that it's just like that. Look, we've done it, guys. We did it. We beat the internet. We won everything. The ultimate Call of Duty Warzone thumbnail created just for you guys. This guy right here in the background is just like, damn, that is one heck of a thumbnail, man. Like, I want to go play COD and get exploded right now. Which is funny because I'm literally in COD being exploded right now as I parachute into this explosion you've made. So you did it. Now you know how to make every single Call of Duty or first-person shooter thumbnail ever created in the history of ever. You're welcome. Hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody, and have a good one.